Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Can I ask you something real? Something that might sting a little, but only because it's honest. Have you ever caught yourself staring at a woman? Not because you admire her beauty or respect her presence, but because a part of you is chasing a momentary fantasy, like a flicker of fire you think will warm something cold inside, and afterward you feel just a little emptier. Not because she did anything wrong, but because somewhere deep inside you know you're not looking at her, you're looking for something through her. You see, lust isn't always about sex. Sometimes it's about escape from loneliness, from rejection, from a deep ache we never learned how to sit with. And what's most heartbreaking is that many men walk around thinking this is normal. Expected that to be a man is to look, to crave, to chase. But what if I told you that chasing women with your eyes can quietly chip away at your integrity? That every lingering gaze can slowly disconnect you from your own depth, your own power, your own peace. In today's video, we're not going to shame you, we're going to liberate you. We'll talk about 6 deeply powerful ways to stop looking at women with lust, not through fear or guilt, but through the kind of love mastery and emotional maturity that transforms your entire being, not just your eyes. You see, we live in a world saturated with imagery, 1,000 faces a day, one swipe at a time, bodies pixelated into bite-sized temptations, algorithms that know your triggers before you do. It's almost like the world is conspiring to keep your attention fragmented, your heart pulled in 100 directions, your gaze no longer sacred. And when I say sacred, I mean intentional, reverent, not passive consumption, but presence. Because when you look at a woman with lust, what you're actually doing is making her disappear. You're turning her into an object, a fantasy, a flash of dopamine. But she has a story, she has a heartbeat. And when you reduce her to a thrill, what happens to your own story? What happens to your deeper longing? There's this quiet erosion that begins. Maybe you don't notice it right away. Maybe it feels like nothing, just a glance here, a mental image there. But soon you find yourself unable to connect deeply with the woman you love, or the one you're trying to love. Or worse, you can't sit still in your own skin without seeking something outside of it to numb the ache. So what do we do with this? How do we reclaim your power, not to suppress your desire, but to elevate it? The first and perhaps most powerful shift is to become deeply aware of what's underneath the lust. Not just the behavior, but the impulse, the hunger, the ache. Because no man lusts without longing, and no longing is without a wound. So I want to ask you, when you find yourself looking at a woman with that magnetic pull, what's actually going on inside you in that moment? Are you bored? Are you lonely? Are you angry at your partner and using this as silent revenge? Are you feeling small in your life and seeking some external confirmation of power? The body doesn't lie. It's telling you something. Lust is not the problem. It's the messenger. The first step to breaking the pattern is to slow down the moment between the impulse and the gaze. That 2-second window when you feel your eyes drifting, that space is where your freedom lives. Instead of following the script, pause. Breathe, ask yourself, not with judgment, but with radical curiosity, what am I feeling right now? And yes, I know for many men this will feel foreign at first. You weren't raised to interrogate your feelings. You were raised to perform, to conquer, to prove. But underneath the performance is a man who just wants to be seen. And the more you can see yourself clearly, the less you will need to devour the world with your eyes. That brings me to something else, something many men don't talk about. The second shift is to reclaim your gaze. You see, your eyes are not just instruments of desire, they're instruments of devotion. When you look at a woman, any woman, not to consume her but to witness her, to regard her humanity before her sexuality, everything changes. You're no longer participating in the transactional dynamic of, what can I get? Instead, you're engaging with presence. What can I understand? What can I appreciate without needing to possess? This doesn't make you weak. It makes you powerful. Because now you're not reacting from compulsion. You're responding from choice. Your gaze becomes a gift, not a grab. I once worked with a couple where the woman constantly felt unseen in her relationship. Not because her partner didn't love her, but because he was constantly checking out other women on the street, at dinner, on Instagram. He never touched them, never flirted, never cheated, but his gaze was everywhere, and she became invisible. Do you know how many women carry that feeling? That they're always auditioning to keep your attention, that they are only as worthy as the next distraction is distant. When a man doesn't control his eyes, the women around him stop feeling safe. Not just partners, daughters, sisters, co-workers. They start to question their value. They feel reduced, not by something loud or violent, but by something quiet and consistent. So when you practice sacred gazing, you begin to transform your relationship not only with women, but with yourself. Because you are no longer a passive observer, you become a conscious participant in the kind of world you want to create. And I want to say something tender here. If you've been using lustful gazing as a coping mechanism, I don't blame you. It may have started years ago. Maybe as a boy, you discovered you could escape pain or shame by disappearing into fantasy. Maybe porn became your friend. Maybe looking gave you power when you felt powerless. But today you are no longer that boy. Today, you have the choice to become a man who walks through the world with dignity, with integrity, With depth, you can look without taking, you can admire without consuming, you can desire without devouring. But it's not easy, because the world will tempt you back into old habits. Your phone, the ads, the locker room talk, all of it will tell you it's no big deal, you're a guy. It's what men do, but you are not here to be what men do. You are here to be who you are, a man who sees clearly, who leads with intention, who doesn't need to diminish others to feel big. And that requires practice, patience, and most of all, presence. This presence is not just about resisting temptation. It's about anchoring yourself in a deeper sense of aliveness. A kind of masculine energy that doesn't need to chase pleasure because it is the pleasure. It's in how you breathe, how you listen, how you slow down your day just enough to notice the subtle movements of your own body, the tension in your jaw when you feel triggered, the tightness in your chest when you're rejected, the flutter in your stomach when you see beauty and don't need to claim it. This level of self-awareness doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you dangerously whole, because now you can choose where to place your energy, and a man who chooses his energy is a man who cannot be bought, baited or broken. So when you find yourself looking again, stop, feel, ask yourself, am I gazing with reverence or with hunger? Because every time you shift that gaze from consumption to connection, you build a new neural path, a new way of being in your body, in the world, in your relationships. And the reward is not just clarity, it's peace. When it's peace, and that peace, that inner stillness you begin to feel when your gaze is no longer enslaved to every passing temptation, that is where real masculine confidence is born. Not the kind that shouts, not the kind that postures, but the kind that walks into a room and doesn't need to look around to prove anything, because his eyes are not searching, they are settled. Anchored, not in boredom, but in fullness. Let's talk about something you may not have connected to this before: your nervous system. Yes, the very system that governs how you respond to pressure, to stress, to arousal. When you look at women with lust, especially compulsively or habitually, you're often not responding to beauty. You're reacting to a spike, a chemical jolt, a shot of adrenaline mixed with dopamine. Your body gets addicted to the hit, not the human. And this, my love, is where you start to reclaim yourself. Because once you become aware that your gaze is being hijacked by your nervous system, your stress, your fatigue, your unmet emotional needs, you can do the radical thing: slow down. You stop chasing the spike. You start training your body to find safety in stillness. And yes, that might feel awkward at first. You might go through moments where your brain tries to bargain with you. Just one glance, just a little look. It won't hurt anyone. But you're not looking because you're alive. You're looking because you're disembodied. So what if, instead of automatically giving in, you dropped back into your body, felt your feet on the floor, rolled your shoulders back, took a deep breath and asked, what do I actually need right now? Because 9 times out of 10, it's not her body you need. It's your own. It's to feel present in yourself again, connected, grounded. Now let's talk about desire. Because I know some of you are wondering, so what? I'm not supposed to feel desire anymore. Am I supposed to pretend women don't affect me? Absolutely not. I'm not here to strip you of your natural desire. I'm here to help you mature it. You see, immature desire is hungry. It's impatient. It's all about taking, proving, dominating. It looks and it doesn't see. It touches and it doesn't feel. But mature desire, oh, it's something else entirely. It's attentive. It's discerning. It's not in a rush. It doesn't confuse stimulation with connection. It's not afraid of beauty, but it doesn't worship it either. It holds beauty gently, like poetry, not like prey. A man with mature desire can see a beautiful woman and smile from a place of wholeness, not hunger. He doesn't look away in shame, and he doesn't stare with possession. He simply honors what is without needing it to complete him. And do you know what happens when you begin to live from this place? You create safety, not just for the women around you, but for yourself. You're no longer caught in the endless loop of looking, fantasizing, feeling guilty, trying to stop, failing, starting over. That cycle is exhausting, and it keeps your nervous system in chaos. But peace creates strength. Inner silence becomes your compass. You don't chase anymore. You choose. That brings me to something I've seen over and over again with men who are doing this work. They start to reclaim the small moments of their day. The moment in the cafe when the barista smiles. The moment walking down the street when someone in heels passes by. The moment on Instagram when the algorithm tempts you with a reel you didn't ask for but can't stop watching. Those are the holy moments. Not because they're sinful, but because they are sacred opportunities for sovereignty, for decision, for leadership. And I want to make something clear. This is not about suppressing your masculinity. It's about deepening it, evolving it, bringing it out of the boyish realm of compulsion into the man's world of conscious choice. A man who sees a woman and honors her without needing to look twice is not weak. He's free. His masculinity is not leaky. It's held. It's contained. And women feel that containment. They don't fear it. They trust it. Because women are not afraid of masculine energy. They're afraid of unregulated masculine energy, the kind that scans a room like a predator, that needs to conquer or consume to feel alive, that seeks validation through conquest rather than character. And you know what's even more tragic? That most men who live in this state are not bad. They're not predators. They're simply uninitiated. No one taught them that masculinity is not about how many you can take, but how deeply you can hold space without needing to take anything at all. So let's bring this down to something practical. You want to break this pattern. You need to create new rituals of focus. You need to train your brain to find beauty in restraint. When you're walking down the street and you feel that pull to look, practice the simple shift. Move your attention inward. Feel your body. Name 3 things you're grateful for. Look at the sky. Or even better, place your gaze somewhere neutral and stay there. Not because you're afraid to look, but because you've chosen to look deeper instead. This isn't repression. This is redirection. You're not running away from desire, you're guiding it. And over time, your body starts to respond differently. That rush you used to get from scanning the room now becomes a quiet pride you feel when you know your gaze is yours. That shame you used to carry when your eyes betrayed your values turns into confidence. Not performative confidence, quiet confidence. The kind you don't need to explain because you feel it in your bones. One man I worked with, he had spent years struggling with lust. It hurt his marriage. It damaged his confidence. He didn't know how to walk through a mall without feeling like a prisoner to his own impulses. And do you know what changed everything for him? He stopped trying to stop looking and started practicing presence. That one shift, no longer resisting the gaze but reclaiming the moment, gave him his power back. He told me, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm the one choosing what I see. Can you imagine how liberating that is? To choose what you see, not what the world shoves in front of you, not what your wounds tell you to seek, but what your soul wants to experience. Because here's the truth, every time you choose not to lust, you are not losing pleasure, you are making room for a greater one. The pleasure of self-trust, the joy of integrity, the quiet satisfaction of knowing that your masculinity is no longer reactive. It's rooted. And when your masculinity is rooted, something begins to shift, not just in how you move through the world, but in how the world moves around you. The noise softens, the urgency fades. You start to hear things you couldn't hear before. You notice the texture of the moment, not just the shape of a body. And this is where the healing begins. You begin to realize that every time you used lust as a crutch, what you were actually longing for was connection. But connection scares people, because to truly connect, you must be vulnerable, you must be seen. And so many men, maybe even you, have built entire identities around being untouched, unreadable, in control. But control is not connection, and lust is not intimacy. When you lust, you bypass the terrifying and beautiful risk of being known. You exchange presence for fantasy, and yet, when you stop chasing that empty high, you realize you don't want just another woman. You want resonance, depth, soul recognition, and suddenly you're no longer interested in looking, you're interested in relating. I once worked with a man who said something I'll never forget. He said, I realized I wasn't addicted to women. I was addicted to the momentary relief of not feeling alone. That's what lust had given him. 2 seconds of escape from his own inner emptiness. But it was like drinking seawater. The more he consumed, the thirstier he became. And so we worked not on his lust, but on his loneliness. We explored the places where his emotional muscles had gone numb. The friendships he had stopped nurturing. The nights he numbed out with screens and scrolling instead of making that call, sending that message, meeting another man in Brotherhood. Because so much of what we call lust is simply unprocessed longing for connection. Do you know what the antidote to compulsive lust is? It's not shame, it's community. It's being seen by other men who are walking the same road. It's conversations that pierce the armor. It's someone asking you, not how many women you've had, but who are you becoming when no one's watching. Lust grows in isolation, healing grows in connection. And as you begin to create that space around you, a circle of men, a partner you can speak truth with, even just one person who sees you fully, you start to realize that lust isn't even that powerful. It's just loud. It screams when you're tired. It whispers when you're lonely. But presence is a deeper language. It doesn't scream. It doesn't seduce. It invites. And that's what starts happening inside your relationship too. Whether you're in a committed partnership, dating someone, or still healing from heartbreak, the energy you bring shifts. You no longer need your partner to constantly reassure you of your worth. You're not comparing her to the fantasy in your head. You're not checking out emotionally every time someone hotter walks by, because now your love is not based on novelty. It's based on knowing. You begin to see her again, not just her curves or her flaws, but her laughter, her hurt, her spirit. And in that seeing, you begin to love from a place deeper than possession. You begin to love from presence. And for many men, this is the most unfamiliar terrain of all. To love without needing to own, to admire without needing to consume, to be turned on not just by a body, but by a moment of vulnerability, a burst of joy, A shared silence, that's the shift from lust to intimacy. And intimacy, real intimacy, is not about sex. It's about depth. It's about meeting someone at the level of their soul, not just the level of your appetite. And let me say this to you clearly: if you've made mistakes in the past, if you've objectified, if you've been consumed by lust, if you've damaged trust, there is still a path back. But it starts not with begging for forgiveness. It starts with rebuilding your inner foundation, because no one can trust a man who does not trust himself. And when you begin to heal this dynamic, you'll see the ripple effects in ways you didn't expect. In your business, in your friendships, in how you show up for your children if you have them. Because the man who can regulate his gaze is the man who can lead without ego, the man who can protect without controlling, the man who can love without fear. So how do we sustain this kind of transformation? You must create a new rhythm, not just in your habits, but in your thoughts. Start catching the story behind the glance. When you feel the urge to look, ask yourself, what am I hoping this moment will give me? Do I feel rejected somewhere? Am I proving something, escaping something? And then return to your breath. Put your hand on your chest if you need to. Anchor yourself in the moment. You are not the boy who needed to chase to feel wanted. You are the man who can sit in stillness and know he is already enough. And as you begin to live from this place, something even more beautiful emerges. Reverence. Reverence is not just respect, it's awe. It's the ability to witness the feminine not as an object to conquer, but as a mystery to behold. It's knowing that beauty is not there to tease you, it's there to remind you of the sacred. And the more you honor the sacred, the more sacred your own life becomes. You begin to move differently, not because someone told you to behave, but because you've remembered who you are. A man who sees clearly, who loves deeply, who walks slowly, not because he's afraid, but because he carries too much integrity to rush. That's who you are beneath the noise. That's who you've always been. That's who you've always been. But we forget, don't we? Not because we're broken, but because we've been distracted. Distracted by culture, by habits, by the constant call to be everywhere except where we are. And when we forget who we are, we begin to act like someone we're not. We start chasing, reacting, trying to find in women what we've lost in ourselves. So let's begin to remember through ritual. Because transformation doesn't happen in grand moments. It happens in small, often invisible choices. And those choices become your rhythm, your song, your essence. One of the most powerful things you can do is begin your day with stillness. Not scrolling, not rushing, but sitting in the quiet of your own breath. Just a few minutes to remind yourself, my gaze belongs to me. My energy is sacred. I will move through this day with presence. This simple act of presence will begin to rewire your nervous system. It's like telling your body, we're not hunting today. We're home. And the more often you return home to yourself, the less you need to seek stimulation to feel alive. There's something ancient about this, something primal. In every culture, men had moments of initiation, rituals that marked their passage from boy to man, not because they changed overnight, but because someone needed to tell them, you no longer need to take to prove you're enough. You are enough, so now you must give. And that's the shift we're speaking to now. The shift from consumption to contribution. Imagine walking down the street not asking, what can I take in? But asking, what energy am I bringing to this space? That is a sacred shift. That's when your masculinity becomes not a force of dominance, but a container of safety, a shelter, a source of peace. And peace is not boring. Peace is powerful. Because peace means you're not reactive. You're not easily swayed. You're not fragile in your sense of self. And let me say something to the man who feels like he's failed too many times, who has tried to stop looking only to fall back into old patterns. I see you. And I want to tell you something tender. Healing is not linear. Progress is not perfection. Every time you choose presence, even for 1 second longer than before, you are carving a new path in your brain. You are building resilience. You are learning how to love in a way you were never taught. Forgive yourself when you fall. But don't romanticize the fall. Don't call it just being a man. Call it what it is, a wound asking for your attention, a moment asking for your leadership. And then lead. Leadership doesn't mean you never feel the pull of lust again. It means you know what to do with it. You don't have to be afraid of desire. Desire is not the enemy. Disconnection is. So connect every day. Connect with your body, with your breath, with your values, with your heart. Connect with other men who call you higher, not just men who nod along while you numb yourself. Find a circle, a group, a brotherhood. One conversation with a real man who sees your strength and your pain can do more to liberate you than 100 hours of silent shame. And when you start showing up for yourself like this, do you know what happens? Your eyes soften, your jaw unclenches, your laughter returns. You're not constantly scanning the room. You're not anxious, you're anchored. And it shows in how you walk, how you listen, how you love. You begin to notice that beauty doesn't overwhelm you anymore. It doesn't hijack your attention. You can appreciate it the way you admire a sunset, stunning, powerful, but not something you need to possess. That's reverence in motion, and it's contagious. Your partner begins to feel safer. Your coworkers begin to respect you differently. Even strangers pick up on something. They can't quite name it, but it feels like this man sees clearly. This man isn't taking, he's choosing. And you start to feel proud again, not performative pride, not ego, but soul pride. The kind of pride that comes from knowing you are living in alignment with the man you were meant to be. That pride is magnetic, and it makes you resilient, because you'll still be tested. There will still be moments when the old patterns rise up. You'll still pass the billboard, still scroll past the post, still walk by the woman in the dress. But something will be different. You won't feel hijacked. You'll feel aware. You'll feel awake. That's the goal. Not perfection, but awakening. To be awake to your power, awake to your choices. Awake to the fact that your gaze carries weight. Because the truth is, your gaze teaches people how to feel in your presence. Do they feel safe? Or do they feel seen through, like a screen? And more importantly, how do you feel? When you look and take and scroll and fantasize, do you feel stronger? Or do you feel smaller? Because I believe that your soul knows the difference. Even when the world tells you otherwise, even when your friends joke, even when your phone feeds you everything designed to distract you from yourself. Deep down, your soul is calling you to more, not to shame you, but to show you who you are. And who you are is not a man who lives by impulse. You are a man who lives by intention. And this, my love, is the greatest seduction of all, not of another person, but of your highest self, the self who doesn't chase but chooses, who doesn't devour but discerns, who doesn't need to be aroused to feel alive because he already is alive in every cell of his being. That man doesn't just break free from lust. He becomes free. And he becomes free. And that freedom isn't loud. It doesn't bang its chest or ask for attention. It's subtle. It's lived. It shows up in the little things. How you pause before you speak. How you stay when others run. How you look without needing to prove or pursue. It's in your posture, in your presence, in the quiet knowing that you are no longer controlled by craving, that you no longer mistake desire for disconnection, that you no longer seek women to feel whole, because you already are. And when you begin to live like this, not for show, not for applause, but for truth, something magical happens. The people around you begin to rise too. Your partner starts to trust your eyes again. Your children feel your consistency. Your friends ask you deeper questions. And even strangers, they notice, because integrity leaves a trace. And that trace becomes your legacy. You stop being just another man trying to resist temptation. You become a man redefining what it means to be masculine in a world that profits from your distraction. A man who chooses connection over control, presence over performance, devotion over domination. And that choice, that's the most radical act of love you can offer. Not just to others, but to yourself. Because when you look back, whether it's 10 years from now or 20, what will matter is not how many women turned your head. What will matter is who you became every time you turned your heart. You will not remember the curve of her body on the street. You'll remember the moment you didn't look and how strong that made you feel, how whole, how honorable. You'll remember the woman beside you, the one who knows your gaze is hers, not because you're scared of the world, but because you've chosen her world. You'll remember the man in the mirror who no longer needed to hide his habits, explain away his patterns, or feel ashamed of his desires. Because he did the work. He turned impulse into integrity, and integrity into intimacy. That man is unforgettable, because he doesn't just make love, he is love. So if you're watching this right now, and something in your chest is stirring, stay with it. Don't rush to fix or plan or confess. Just feel. Let yourself be humbled and proud at the same time. Proud that you've named something. Humbled that it took this long. This is not a sprint. It's not a checklist. It's a path, and paths are walked with intention. So start simply with your gaze. Reclaim it. Retrain it. Make it a place of blessing, not bargaining. Let it become sacred again. Let it become your prayer. And if you fail, because you will, let your failure be soft. Let it teach you. Let it remind you that you are human, yes, but also divine. That you are messy, yes, but also meaningful. Because this is not just about women. This is about you. The man you are when no one is watching. The man you are when your head hits the pillow at night. The man you are becoming one glance at a time. So breathe. Feel your feet on the ground. Look not out, but in. And from that place lead. Lead yourself. Lead your life. Lead your legacy. Because the world doesn't need more men who can't stop looking. It needs more men who know how to see. And if this message moves something in you today, leave a comment below. Share what you're feeling. Not because you owe us, but because when one man speaks his truth, it gives permission to others. Let this not just be a video you watch, but a moment you mark. And if you want more of this, more conversations that honor your complexity, your desires, your healing, subscribe. This is not just a channel, it's a sanctuary for the man who sees, for the man who feels, for the man who leads. Here's to your journey, here's to your wholeness. And here's to loving with your eyes wide open.